They said the fairy tale was over. Too slow, too old. Ferrari was a mistake from the start. That's the headline, right? But what if that's not the real story? Hungary wasn't just another rough weekend. It was a crack in the mask, a glimpse into Ferrari's inner chaos, and a warning shot from a 7-time champion who's done staying quiet. When Lewis told Ferrari on the radio, "Maybe you should replace me," most people thought it was frustration boiling over, but it wasn't. It was a calculated statement, and team boss Fred Vasseur understood it instantly. Here's the part the TV feed didn't show you. In Q1, Hamilton had the upper hand over Leclerc. In Q2, he missed out on Q3 by a fraction, 15 thousandths of a second. Think about that. The difference between fighting for pole and starting P12, between headlines of brilliance and headlines of humiliation. Leclerc went on to shine at the front. Hamilton? Buried in midfield with no strategy push, no support, no answers. Just silence on the radio. But behind closed doors, the data painted a very different picture. And so did Vasseur, who suddenly came out defending Hamilton in public, shocking the paddock. Why? Because this fight isn't really about lap times. It's about power. When Vasseur says Lewis has been unlucky, that's not sympathy. That's political language. He's marking territory, putting protection around Hamilton for the first time this year. Because if 0.015 seconds drops you from pole contention to 12th, something in the Ferrari machine is broken, and Vasseur knows it. The truth is, Hungary didn't expose a slow car. It exposed a system failure, setups that blunted Hamilton's strengths, a qualifying window too tight to exploit, a strategy team that left him isolated with no grip and no route back into the fight. On paper, Ferrari looked like they were back, but zoom in and you realise they're surviving on razor-thin margins, not true excellence. Vasseur admitted as much after the race. One was first, the other 12th. It looks stupid. He's right, it does, because the gap wasn't about raw pace, it was about precision. And Ferrari keeps dropping the ball on Hamilton's side of the garage. Every missed 10th isn't just time lost, it's a message, a reminder that he's not the one being prioritised. Hungary wasn't just another race, it was a revelation. A sign of favouritism, fragility, and fractures Ferrari can no longer disguise. And if you think this was just a bad weekend, listen carefully, because the silence was even louder. Hamilton's voice disappeared in Q2. No calls from the pit wall, no bold recovery plan, nothing. And when the race ended, the body language spoke volumes. Leclerc, no handshake, no public words for Lewis. Inside the garage, engineers crowded around Charles's data, while Hamilton sat alone with race engineer Riccardo Adami. No cameras, no debrief circle, just two men, low voices, and growing frustration. Adami, usually cautious, has been shifting. More direct, more firm. Insiders say he fought for brake migration changes in Hungary, changes never approved. Meanwhile, Leclerc was handed last-minute tyre blanket recalibrations. Two different standards, one supposed team. That's why Hamilton's message over the radio, "Do you want two cars or just one?" cut so deep. It wasn't broadcast, but it didn't need to be. That line is still echoing through Maranello. Everyone knows exactly what he meant. And what happened next confirmed it wasn't just anger, it was strategy. After the race, Ferrari split the debrief. Leclerc joined the full technical board, strategy leaders, and setup chiefs. Hamilton moved to a side room with just Adami and two engineers. The official reason? Time optimization. The real reason? Damage control. Ferrari wasn't just managing a tough race, they were managing a narrative. Because once Hamilton starts questioning the system in public, he's no longer just a driver. He becomes a political figure, and the evidence backs him up. Hungary's brake trace data showed instability in Hamilton's car from Q2 onwards. Instability that wasn't there in Q1. Ride height changes made overnight. Rear grip issues recorded but never addressed. Vasseur brushed it off. Just a 10th here or there. But in modern F1, that 10th is the cliff edge. Leclerc drove the optimized package, Hamilton drove the question mark, and he knew it. That's why, when Hamilton spoke in the media pen afterwards, his tone wasn't frustration anymore. It was something sharper, something that says the war inside Ferrari has only just begun. Think about this. In Formula One, silence isn't weakness, it's a weapon. And when a driver like Lewis Hamilton goes quiet, it isn't surrender. It's a signal, a warning shot to his own team. Hungary made that crystal clear. Out front, Ferrari celebrated a pole and talked about momentum. But in the shadows of the garage, the tension was thick. What the cameras didn't capture was a team split in two. One side polished and protected, the other left exposed. And Lewis? He wasn't just driving the car, he was studying the battlefield. Behind closed doors, Ferrari leadership isn't aligned. Some insiders think Hamilton went too far by questioning the team publicly. Others argue he simply voiced what's been whispered for months, that Ferrari's system is fractured. This wasn't the first time Lewis hinted at dysfunction, but it was the first time Fred Vasseur didn't deny it. And that silence from the boss matters, because once a team principal stops shielding the narrative, it means something deeper has shifted. People close to the team say Vasseur has grown impatient with how Hamilton's setup requests are treated, approved late, quietly reversed, or buried in layers of procedure until they're irrelevant. That's the real breakdown. Lewis isn't just losing time on track, he's losing confidence in the structure around him. At Mercedes, changes were collaborative. At Ferrari, they feel conditional, like boxes to be checked rather than solutions to be applied. And when trust erodes, performance isn't the first casualty. The team dynamic is. That's why Hamilton's tone after Hungary sounded detached. Not because he's giving up, but because he's seeing the politics unfold in real time. 10 races remain. He's staring at a 42-point gap, and the team still hasn't decided if he's an asset to be maximised or an accessory to the Charles Leclerc project. Hungary may have forced their hand though, because numbers don't lie, and the paddock is watching. The irony is that Hungary was meant to be Ferrari's reset moment. Pole position, media buzz, Vasseur smiling on the pit wall. But step inside the garage and the atmosphere told a different story. Two operations running in parallel. One program customized, precise and protected. The other reactive, exposed and isolated. Lewis felt it. That's why his Q2 radio wasn't just anger, it was theatre. Maybe you should replace me. Translation: if I'm not really part of the plan, stop pretending I am. Even more telling, Vasseur's public response. He didn't deflect, he defended. Lewis has been unlucky. A short phrase, but in Ferrari's language, that's a direct acknowledgement that the fault isn't with the driver, it's with the system. Maybe the strategy department, maybe the performance group, maybe the entire structure that's been in place since 2019. But whatever it is, Vasseur knows the equation. If Ferrari wants to stay ahead of Mercedes in the constructors' standings, they need both cars scoring points. And right now, only one is. That's not just a sporting issue, it's a political crisis. And that crisis has a name: Riccardo Adami. Once viewed as the bridge between Hamilton and Ferrari, he's now caught in the middle of two philosophies: the loyalty to Leclerc's driving style versus Hamilton's demand for precision. In Hungary, Adami reportedly pushed for brake migration tweaks mid-session. The request was denied. Meanwhile, last-minute setup changes for Leclerc were approved without hesitation. Not sabotage, just structure. One driver's needs are validated, the other's filtered. But here's the twist. Adami didn't back down. He doubled down. After the race, instead of handing Hamilton a watered-down summary, he brought the full telemetry package, the raw data. That's not normal procedure. In Ferrari's world, that's defiance. Quiet, professional defiance, but loud enough for the paddock to feel the ripple. Suddenly, Hamilton isn't a lone voice. He's the nucleus of a growing faction inside the team. With 10 races to go, this isn't a side story, it's a power shift in motion. The question isn't what went wrong in Hungary, it's what happens next. Ferrari is standing at a crossroads. Do they keep selling the narrative that Leclerc is the future while Hamilton is still adapting? Or do they face the uncomfortable reality that their most decorated driver is asking the questions nobody else dares to? He's doing it with the data, with the radio, and now with Vasseur's subtle backing. Zandvoort is up next. A high downforce track, a high-pressure weekend, and the first post-summer test of Ferrari's true hierarchy. Will Adami get the freedom to tailor Hamilton's car exactly to his needs? Will Vasseur split the setups again? And most importantly, will Ferrari finally admit that they can't keep pretending there isn't a choice to be made? Because in Formula One, silence doesn't protect you. It provokes. And the next chapter at Ferrari won't be written in tenths of a second. It'll be written in trust. The kind that can either unite a team or tear it apart.